Well, Senator Inhofe, can't thank you enough.
Isn't that great?
It is really great. I am so proud of our Congress, led by you, to actually get something positive done for general aviation. How do you feel about that?
Well, I feel, well, first of all, I can honestly say that if it hadn't been for you and EAA, we would not have been able to bring this to a conclusion. Because every time there was an obstacle out there, all it'd take is I'd call you guys up, and all of a sudden, a lot of letters came in, and a lot of phone calls came in, and these members of the Senate and the House, some of them, would come up to me and say, "Hey, Inhofe, no, let's reconsider this thing. Maybe, so that is the best team effort I think I've ever experienced."
It was amazing.
Well, of course, we had that team effort in Pilots' Bill of Rights 1, too.
That's right.
It was greater this time, though, because of the unique obstacles that we had.
And getting it done 4 times to the U.S. Senate, led by yourself and Senator Manchin as well, helpful, is extraordinary. I don't think there's ever been results like that. Have there been in your life in terms of a general aviation bill that's positive?
No, not really, because we've had, I know there are good people in the FAA, but the FAA, Mark, is a bureaucracy. And my job is, I chair a committee that has jurisdiction over the EPA. EPA, when I was a builder and developer out in the real world, tried to put me out of business for 20 years. And so the poetic justice is I now chair the committee that has jurisdiction over the bureaucracy that tried to put me out of business. Well, the same thing is true with the FAA. When I had my incident, and that was back in, alleged incident I should say, back in October of 2010, I've been trying to help people for a long period of time. As a member of the Senate, and as the only, I guess, active commercial pilot in the Senate, people would bring their problems to me instead of their own senator. And I'd try to help people until it happened to me, and I made a landing where I was actually cleared to land by the Valley Approach Control in South Texas on Cameron County Airport runway 13, and was a victim of the FAA for that, because there was some work being done on the runway. No NOTAMs were ever published, no indication that there's any problem, being cleared to land, and yet for a period of 6 months, a bureaucrat, unelected bureaucrat, could have taken my license away from me. Now, it would have been tragic in my life. I've been flying for 60 years now. But look at an airline pilot, or they take away their livelihood, and the helpless feeling that a bureaucracy has that power over you. So that's what gave birth to Pilots' Bill of Rights 1. And I just want to make sure that all of our friends, your friends and my friends out there, realize, yes, Class 3, that's great. That reform is a wonderful thing, probably the #1 issue that people are concerned with. But there are other things left in the Pilots' Bill of Rights 2. It's not over yet. Now, we passed the Pilots' Bill of Rights 2 on December 15th. I passed it out of the Senate. And then it's been sitting there in that committee for in the House for 6 months. And finally we put it on the extension of the EPA vote, and that's why just 2 weeks ago it became law.
That's right.
So that's now, that part is history.
I think you make a very good point. You make a very good point, Senator, that this is a great victory, but we're not done yet.
Yeah.
Pilots should have the right to appeal, should have the right to, all due justice. And you've been taking this part of Pilots' Bill of Rights 2 personal.
Yeah.
You've made sure that these guys have been heard. So when do you think we're going to get that done?
Well, I think we'll get it done. A lot of it's going to depend on you guys. You and I are going to have this Saturday meeting at 10 o'clock, and we're going to go over all the details. And I want to tell anyone who's out there, look in the newspaper, what's it called, the daily newspaper here on
AirVenture.
AirVenture. In paragraph 4, there's an op-ed piece by me in there that talks about what is left to be done, and it gets into the details. Things like the NOTAMs have not been resolved yet, but we have it set up now, so it's going to be resolved, and that's a part of the Pilots' Bill of Rights too. The deference, I think everybody knows, at least the people who are watching and listening to us know, that for a long period of time the NTSB has been just kind of a rubber stamp for the FAA.
Exactly.
Now it's not going to be that way, because we're going to give access to the district courts, and access that is going to be automatic. But we had to change the language from Pilots' Bill of Rights 1 to Pilots' Bill of Rights 2 because we were not getting the cooperation that we wanted out of either the courts or the FAA. Well, we put it in there now so that they have to cooperate or they lose that jurisdiction.
Well, I thank you for that work, and we are going to be getting our members actively engaged and understanding the value and speaking up for Pilots' Bill of Rights too, which is basically just due process.
Yeah.
We were granted in the Constitution,
Yeah.
but because we're aviators, we don't get it.
And people don't understand that. You know, why is it that we're singled out?
Yeah.
And again, I was never really sensitive to that until it happened to me.
That's right.
And I thought,
It can happen to anybody.
This is still America.
That's right. So, what do you think about Part 23 reform? I mean, we got a lot of products that are coming on the market right now, and I think the FAA has made some really positive things. This airplane over here now has a non-TSO'd, guidance device in the panel, allowed for $2,100 bucks. But we need a lot more help on the Part 23 reform too, don't we?
Well, we do. And what I want to do, and that kind of is an opening for what will happen. When we pass the Pilots' Bill of Rights 1, and it's right up here, is due to the pressure that we got from the participants here that then we sent out through your publication, we're able to do that. Then right after that, they said, I'd get calls saying, well, why didn't you cover this? And why didn't you cover this? There's other things. So we did Pilots' Bill of Rights too. Well, I have a feeling that once this is over, and once we pass the rest of the provisions that you and I want to get passed, there's going to be a Pilots' Bill of Rights 3. and right now, it's a good time to do it.
It is
because the members of the House and the Senate, who have historically not been supportive of general aviation, this is happening. It would be happening on the heels of a successful effort, and a few phone calls from hometowns. It makes a big difference.
A couple 100,000 people over the last 6 months have written, called, been in contact with their representative or senator.
Yeah.
We're really proud to be able to pull that group together, and we're on a roll now. Now is the time to take the hill, right?
It is, and I can remember calling you guys up on this, saying, I'm not going to mention the states because I don't want to get, that's history now, and I don't want to get them build up resistance. But there would be a particular person from a particular state, and all of a sudden they'd start getting hundreds and hundreds of phone calls and messages and emails coming in, and they'd come up to me on the Senate floor and say, well, Inhofe, let's talk about this a little bit more. So that's going to be necessary. So when you talk about your Part 23, we're going to have a lot of things probably that people are going to try to prioritize, and you doing your usual good work, you getting along with EAA and their input, are going to end up with a list of priorities of things that should be a part of a Pilots' Bill of Rights 3. And we'll do it.
AOPA, I feel, has a unique opportunity. We work with the EAA, but we also work with the other 30 other associations in aviation, whether it's the Antique or the Seaplane and the Warburg groups, and pull them together, us together as a general aviation community. And you know what? We can make something happen.
Yeah.
That's kind of proud.
Can I say something? In fact, I know you well enough, Mark, that you won't mind. We got a presidential election coming up. I didn't know Trump from Adam. I'd never had a conversation until 3 weeks ago. And when I talked to him, I said, now you don't know me. He said, oh, yes, I do. You chair this committee that has jurisdiction over the EPA that's putting people out of business. You are a ranking member on the armed services, and you know about what President Obama has done in disarming America. And you also are going to be a good contact for general aviation. And so I'm going to be the one that will be working with Trump. And I'm just going to say that if anybody out there, a lot of people are going to vote for Hillary. She's a charmer and all that. But a liberal Democrat generally is supportive of any bureaucracy. And there's going to be the big difference in terms of general aviation. So I can assure you, if Trump does get reelected, I'll be at his side talking about general aviation issues. And I think thanks for letting me say it.
Well, you're welcome. And I tell you what, it's going to be an interesting election no matter what happens.
Yeah.
But, I see general aviation with I think right now our caucus is about 280 members right now that care about general aviation. And that is an empowering group of leadership in the House and Senate.
Sure.
And we want to take this opportunity and get things done. So thanks for your leadership,
well,
Senator.
The time is right, Mark. We're on a roll. Let's keep rolling. All right?
Thank you.
You bet. One thing, Mark, that's really rewarding to me. This is my 36th consecutive year to be at Oshkosh. And my older son, Jimmy, named after me, he and I flew the same airplane up here that we flew up 36 years ago.
No way.
Yeah,
That's
Grumman
cool.
Tiger, and we came up to this, and we were just reminiscing on the way up. That was right after I was his flight instructor, and he was about 16 years old at that time. And so we've been up here every year for 36 years and flew up in the same plane that we did 36 years ago. Isn't that great?
That is awesome. I came my first Oshkosh, I got to tell you, a guy in the Twin Cities owned a DC-3 C-47, $25 round trip in 1977. Yeah, but I've been coming over here to the seaplane base with my Super Cub for 25 years.
Yeah.
And I just love the show. It's great.
Oh, isn't it great?
Thanks.
It sure is. Okay.